Alright, so blue team, the three bands are Kha'Zix, Vi, and LeBlanc. The Kha'Zix and the LeBlanc bands seem to be targeted very anti-assassin, while Vi is just so incredibly strong with her ultimate and just picking people off. While purple team has opted to ban Dr. Mundo, Yasuo, and Wukong. So Yasuo, just because of his pure power in mid lane and his ability to completely 1-0 someone. While Dr. Mundo, not too sure how I feel about that Dr. Mundo ban. I honestly don't see him played very often.
Well, if I can interject about that, actually, Dr. Mundo is a true terror top lane currently because of his sheer ability to sustain himself and keep on pushing for as long as he wishes, essentially. He is an immovable wall that can just lay down some serious pain if he's given the chance. So he's kind of like Shyvana in that sense that he's just this, you know, this lane pusher that's also incredibly hard to take down and incredibly hard to gank as a result. Um, so once he really starts getting some momentum, Dr. Mundo is a very potent player in team fights. So that I can understand the ban from that perspective.
Yeah, he's definitely incredibly strong late game. But early game, I think Mundo can do pretty badly against some harass and poke. Also, purple team has banned Wukong. I see that ban pretty often, so I'm not surprised there. His ultimate is incredibly strong in team fights, and Wukong can get so incredibly fed just simply from ganking. So blue team, we have a Leona, we have a Vel'Koz, and we have an Amumu. So already from blue team, we see so much AoE potential and so much teamfight potential. Both Leona and Amumu with their stuns, if they can synergize their stuns during team fights, their team can do so much damage. Also with the Vel'Koz, his Death Ray, I can already see a Leona and a Mumu ult going down into purple team, and then just a Vel'Koz Death Ray just mowing everyone down. Up in purple team, we have a Nidalee and a Vayne. Um, Not too sure how I feel about that. Nidalee probably going mid, and the Nidalee is so dependent on her poke during team fights, while Vayne is so she's really like all in. So again, not too sure. And Vayne versus Leona and Amumu is going to probably have a hard time. Purple team also has picked Volibear and Janna. So with the Janna support, Vayne might have less of a hard time. Hopefully Janna can peel for her. And if Janna can stay alive during team fights, she'll be of a lot of help to Vayne. And also with the Volibear jungle here, not too sure how Mumu jungle will do against Volibear jungle. I think Volibear jungle is definitely going to have a better time ganking, just because of the speed and his throwback. Blue team has also picked Ashe and Ryze, so even more CC for their team. It'll be interesting to see an Ashe and a Leona bot lane. I'm not too sure how I feel about that. They definitely have a lot of AoE and they have a lot of stun, but Ashe might not be able to do enough damage for any of the Leona engages. But then again, Ashe versus Vayne, I think that's a pretty smart pick. If Ashe can poke down Vayne during laning phase and just outrange her and keep her in the back, then she should be fine. But then Vayne, once she hits level 6, if Ashe and Leona can get a stun onto her, Ashe should have the advantage here.
I'm actually pretty surprised about the Ashe pick because there's such a saturation of hard CC on this team already. The Ashe pick just seems a little overkill, and I feel that a pick like a Draven or Lucian or Jace could have contributed to a better overall team composition because of the amount of stuns already on the team.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely should have a little more raw power. they have so much CC already, like you said. I'm not too sure if Ashe can bring the damage that's like necessary. And they also picked a Rise. Purple team. Purple team's last pick is a Shyvana top lane. So Shyvana top versus Rise top. Ashe and Leona versus Vayne and Janna. Amumu jungle versus Volibear jungle. And we have the Vel'Koz mid versus Nidalee mid.
Mid is really going to be determined by whomever can land the skill shots, evidently. So it's really going to be a skill matchup for that lane.
How do you feel about Rise versus Shyvana?
I was actually just about to comment on that. I'm actually not too sure because I've not seen a lot of successful Rise tops, but that's only from my own personal experience. So I'm not very privy to know how good Rise top can actually be, especially versus such an aggressive pusher like Shyvana. I'm not sure whether or not that's actually going to play well for him, because Shyvana is able to take on a massive amount of damage and is also able to clear a wave like nothing else. Rise is going to be pressed against this tower, struggling to get all that CS, and eventually what's going to happen is that Shyvana is just going to outscale Rise, given that the two of them don't kill each other, simply because she's going to have more farm.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a pretty even matchup. If both lanes are probably just going to be farming top lane, because like you said, Rise can't kill Shyvana. Shyvana probably can't kill Rise without a gank, at least.
My insight into that would be that if he gets through the laning phase without dying and he's running teleport properly, it's really going to boil down to ganks rather than the laning phase itself. He's going to be very starved for mana, as you said, Guy, where he's going to be constantly trying to just wave clear, get the CS that he can. But come mid-game, he's going to have his Chalice, he's going to probably have a Tear, or not a Chalice, he's going to have his Rod of Ages and his Tear. And if he can land a good teleport gank, that's going to be a lot more influential than a Shyvana who's just going to kind of want to split push and then every once in a while use her Dragon form.
I'm not really sure if I agree with that, just because I kind of anticipate Shyvana just getting so far ahead in top lane that she's going to be a presence that the jungler and Rise will not, like the enemy team just won't be able to ignore for very long without suffering the consequences themselves. No, it's a toss-up. Also with the ability of Shyvana to just build pure tank and still be efficient at wave clearing, I think Rise is in for, well, a bad matchup, really. The Vayne and Ashe versus Janna and Leona, I think, well, I mean, in different orders, but you know what I mean. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I feel that Leona, if she managed to land her Zenith Blade onto Vayne, that she's going to be able to give Ashe a lot of kills. But with the Janna present at the same time, there's a lot of potential for that to be mitigated very easily. So it's going to be about whether or not Ashe can really outfarm and zone Vayne as she should be able to. Otherwise, Vayne is just going to scale into the hyper carry that she's known for.
So the game is about to start in 3 seconds. You should be able to spectate after that.
Fantastic.
And I agree with you. Even though I don't agree with the Ashe pick, I definitely think Ashe and Leona are going to have an easier lane here. I don't like Janna against Leona. I know it should make sense, you know, just with the kind of spells Janna has. But I really think with the Vayne lane, you really need someone who is willing to really babysit the AD carry, and Janna has absolutely really no kind of she has no aura in lane, Janna. She can't really do too much. She really has to wait for team fades to have any kind of effect for her AD carry.
I think the Janna decision in the pick here was really to try and counter the dive from Amumu and Leona, and in that sense I totally agree that it was a really strong pick. In lane, however, you were completely right that Janna isn't as potent as other supports could have been for Vayne specifically. However, it was a really good decision for her team overall.
And really, when it comes down to it, you have to think, okay, do I want to pick a support that can help my AD carry in lane and keep them in the game, or do I want to pick a support that might sacrifice the laning phase and really just bring them into team fights? And it really just depends on your individual skill as a support player.
I don't feel that it's an especially bad pick either for the mid-lead Volibear Shyvana. If they all group together, Shenna's passive is going to play really well into her team's mobility. So in that sense, I feel that she chose a really good support for her team rather than for the lane. If she really wanted to counter Leona, I think Thresh would have been a safer pick to go with. But I don't entirely disagree with her decision.
I just really wish we had a teleport coming out from Ryze. Ryze with teleport is just terrifying, and especially now that the cooldown is so much lower if you're using it on a tower, he can just go back and fill up his mana every few waves. So Shyvana is not going to be able to do nearly as much to him. Honestly, that would be his saving grace in this lane versus a resourceless shoving champion. And without that, I feel like he's just going to kind of fall over come mid-game.
Also, I don't see too many opportunities for Ryze to be able to use Ignite on Shyvana.
He's not going to be able to kill her, so why bring Ignite if it's not for kill potential? Okay, so we have a quick pause coming out here. Also, Guy, are you able to spectate off me?
Yes, I'm already in the game.
Perfect, just double checking. Oh, so many pauses.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
Probably going to see a blue start here from Mumu, and a blue start also for Volibear. So Mumu's probably not going to be able to gain top or mid too quickly. Actually, some pings going down onto red buff. So I'm not sure if this Mumu is just protecting his red, or if he's going to take it.
If I were him, I would start red. You always want to start where your AD carry is, so that you can cycle your lane up through to top lane. The question is he going to have his blue protected for once he gets to it?
And also, Mumu ganks are so dependent on whether or not he lands a stun with his bandage.
Someone in chat was saying, did we notice that Ryze's Ignite was the only thing to interrupt Volibear passive? Honestly, I don't care. And I don't mean that in a rude way. I mean, it's not worth picking a summoner spell that's going to cause you to lose lane in hopes that you're going to be able to use it to shut down the enemy jungler late game. Build a Morellonomicon at that point. It's a pretty good item in terms of CDR and gold efficiency.
I was about to say the exact same thing. You have two very strong AP characters on your team that have the ability to build Morellonomicon for a lot of CDR damage and mana regeneration, which would be fantastic on both Ryze and Vel'Koz. So really, if the Volibear passive is that much of a concern at that point of the game, either of them should easily be able to acquire that item.
I don't feel it's a very good fit on Ryze because he's so focused on like Frozen Heart and stuff for his CDR. But on a Vel'Koz who's not very mana hungry, it's a fantastic alternative to Athene's on him. It's cheaper, it gives very efficient stats, and it gives you that healing reduction to take care of the Nidalee here, to take care of the Volibear and the Janna heal. That's a lot of healing that you want to reduce.
There's also a really strong possibility that Shyvana might build into Bladed Ruin King as well, or some form of sustain at the very least.
For sure.
Overall, I feel like Morellonomicon would not be that terrible of an item to pick for this game at all.
I just want to point out the level 1 damage that Ryze is able to put out onto this Shyvana. I would have expected to see him go and use an Ignite there, but
Shyvana should absolutely go back at this point, because an Ignite would totally kill her at this point.
And Mumu is cycling back up top, getting a snare down onto Shyvana, and the
Here
Ignite
comes
is going
the
to go down.
Ignite.
Ignite
Oh,
also
she
going
whizzed.
down onto Ryze, but First Blood will be going down to Ryze.
that was actually a very poor play from Ryze. He got her incredibly low right at level 1, and
And he
didn't
should
follow
have
through.
waited for a Mumu as well.
Mm-hmm.
If
For
he had
sure.
waited just a second longer.
Volibear landing a
Volibear
very good flip.
down in mid.
Uh,
Nice.
I'd just like to point out, bring your attention to bottom lane right now, that Leona is really not trying to zone Vayne at all. And at such an early point of the game, Janna doesn't have the raw disengage power that she has late game to really make an effect on a Leona dive at this point. So I find it really strange that she's not trying to focus down Vayne for some early advantage for Ashe onto Vayne.
Yeah, whenever you're up against a Vayne lane, you want to be as aggressive as possible as a support, especially when you're playing a support like Leona, whose Zenith Blade is pretty much the perfect length compared to Vayne's auto attack. They're pretty much equal.
Mm-hmm. Now, we actually saw a Mumu able to counter jungle a Volibear and out-duel him. That is shocking. Honestly, I would have expected Volibear to win these trades very, very easily. Also, a comment on his counter jungling, though, is that he clears the entire camps instead of leaving one little minion up. So it's not really going to hurt Volibear at all. It's just going to give Amumu a slight advantage. If I were him, I would take the small advantage for myself and the small disadvantage for the enemy team by leaving that little tiny minion up.
Amumu lands a bandage up top, and Shyvana unfortunately just doesn't decide to go run for her tower, which is going to end in a certain death for her. She's going to try to go for the suicide, and still give a kill to Amumu and an assist to Rise. Not too sure what the thought was there.
Mm-hmm. The
think
actual
she just
suicide timer is
didn't-
very long.
I think she just didn't want to give the kill to Rise. It would have been a lot harder to deal with top lane.
Now, Shyvana went for a ruby crystal, 2 ruby crystals as a matter of fact, and I'm really not sure what she's trying to build those into right now.
Zenith Blade not quite able to connect. Leona landing some good harass disengage back onto Leona in response, but it's not really going to turn into anything. It's just saying, hey, don't fight me, and maybe make them a little bit hesitant to fight next time.
It really looks like Leona is just sitting in that bush, and I'm really going to go against that, because as a Leona, even though Janna's going to be able to disengage on you pretty easily, you still want to have that presence in lane, and while you may not have the ability to take down Vayne right now, just be like, hey Vayne, I'm here, you should back off a little bit, you know, push her away from some creeps.
I totally agree. Leona is such a frightening support to face, especially as a Vayne, because she just has that sheer kill potential on you. I'm very surprised by the amount of passivity we're seeing from Leona right now.
She's also having a really hard time with her Zenith Blade, and it's not as though Vayne is tumbling out. She's just not hitting it. When your enemy opponent goes for a last hit, when they're in the middle of their auto attack animation, that's the perfect time to try and use it, because yeah, they could cancel their auto attack or they could do a really quick tumble, but it's
Up and
almost
top,
guaranteed.
Flash going down, just to knock Rise back, and the kill will be for Volibear.
Another comment about Leona, there's actually a mistake right now in the skill order that she's leveling them up. She's actually opted to level Q first, and completely missing out on the advantage from the armor and magic resist that her W gives her.
Down in mid, Death Ray will be going down on Nidalee and getting a kill for Valkaz. I don't think Nidalee should have stayed in mid lane with such low health.
This is true. Vel'Koz's base damages are extraordinarily high, actually. So, and he can be quite bursty, very similar to how a Lux can be in lane as well. Actually, their play pattern is not entirely different, so I would consider the same. I would exert the same amount of cautiousness as I would with a Lux, with my in accordance with the distance and the amount of health that I have. Now, Leona knows that the Janet's shield is going to be on cooldown, and this would be a perfect opportunity to dive Vayne. Even though they're really close to the tower and probably wouldn't be able to get that much damage in, um, man, Leona's passiveness is just really surprising right now.
And we
Also,
do
with
have
the
a
four-man
four-man.
gank bot, um, Leona ults will not be enough to save her. However, with the flash, will be
And
enough
there's
to
an
save.
Blade.
Oh, but the Asphalt will be enough to save both of them.
I'm interested to see if they could go for a quick dragon here with 4 people already down on this side of the map.
Up in top lane, Amumu will be landing a bandage onto Shyvana and ulting onto her, but it will not be enough to get a kill. Shyvana is just so incredibly tanky, and Purple Team will be taking a free dragon. No one's helping out Volibear with dragon.
Yes, I'm actually rather surprised by this because Amumu was top. This was a perfect chance for the purple team to secure that dragon.
Bot lane and mid really should have just helped Volibear and possibly tanked it for him a little bit and just put damage on it. But they just went to their own lanes.
Very nice knockup
Nidalee
from Vel'Koz.
jumping into the knockup. The ult not doing enough damage, but will get her incredibly low. And she will have to go back.
Now, Vel'Koz seems to be going for the Rod of Ages. I'm actually not too sure about that choice of item.
I think his decision making is he wants to be tanky, but there are better options.
I don't agree with that. I think they have enough tankiness on their team. Ryze can act as an off tank. We have a Mumu. We have Leona. I really only see Rod of Ages on very sustained mid lanes, like Ryze who need it for the mana, or possibly Nidalee. But on Vel'Koz, I think it's a little unnecessary and just kind of stunting his damage a bit.
It's a little wasted too because, as I said, his base damages are so high. You really want to get that penetration as soon as you possibly can, just for the sheer advantage that it gives you right off the bat.
The knockup going on to Volibear will stop the gank. Very good knockup. And so much damage onto Nidalee with Volibear still there. I don't think this Vel'Koz needs any tankiness at all. He really just needs to be building pure damage.
I absolutely agree.
If I were him, I'd probably be going towards a Morellonomicon, Void Staff, and then a probably Liandry's for extra health shredding.
Turret has been destroyed.
With Volibear and Shyvana on the enemy team as well, I feel like that'd be a very good choice of items as well.
Because at that point you're getting the very early cooldown reduction and a little bit of mana regen and gold efficient AP from the Morellonomicon, and then you're following that up with Void Staff. So boom, your damage is there, and you can follow it up with health shredding and even more Magic Pen.
Vel'Koz is coming top to assist Ryze against Shyvana. And once again, Shyvana is going to go out to the tower and probably going to get very low from taking that route. Not sure if she's going to be able to escape with... maybe she will. Her Nidalee is right next to her and she should probably try to intercept for a heal.
Down in bot lane, also, very weird disengage from Leona. Leona jumped in with Zenith Blade, died. Then a Mumu jumps in incredibly low, ults them. Ashe getting an arrow onto them and picking up a kill on both Volibear and Janna, who tower dove her for some reason.
Yeah, they tried to go after the incredibly low health. I believe it was Leona who was running away. And it was just they're chasing kills too hard. They're not taking the advantages that they're getting, and as a result, they're just sort of suiciding.
We just saw a really good chase on Nidalee from Vel'Koz. He just strained his skills together in such an expertly way that he was able to easily get the passive procs onto her and secure the kill with his ultimate. Vel'Koz is essentially doing what Shyvana is doing with the purple team. He's just shoving Nidalee into her tower and advancing like an unstoppable wall. So with that in mind, I'm really surprised that he's going to go for the Rod of Ages, because I mean he's already committed to the Catalyst, so it wouldn't make sense to sell it at this point. But if he just built more damage, he could really become an oppressing force for the purple team.
I'm interested where this blue buff is going to go. If Amumu's going to take it, or if he gives it to mid or top. I think he's probably just going to take it himself. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with that, because Ryze has been constantly pushed up against his tower against Shyvana for this entire game. Giving it to Ryze would have really helped him out to further a bit of the advantage that he's been able to get over Shyvana despite being pushed.
It would stop him hemorrhaging CS as much as he is. He's constantly losing more and more CS in relation to Shyvana. Amumu going in for a counter jungle onto red buff. Volibear catches him out. Shyvana starting to respond a little slow on that, and Nidalee trying to come in but caught off by Vel'Koz. We see the flash come out from Amumu. Vel'Koz lands onto Nidalee. Volibear just kind of doing his buff instead. So they are able to secure the buff, but I would have liked to see them try and pin down champions instead.
Ooh,
Amumu
Vel'Koz
re-engaged.
singling out
Getting
Nidalee.
advantage and an ultimate onto Nidalee. Vel'Koz will be getting the kill.
Ryze is in behind as well, and he's going to be pumping out some great damage here.
Very,
And
very
Shyvana
good
just
communication
walking.
between Vel'Koz and Amumu right there.
It's very interesting to see bandage toss onto Shyvana stayed way too long with such low health against these three. They're so well synergized, like you guys said. But it's interesting to see a top and a mid react to a jungle like they did. I mean, you don't even see that in plat or diamond games. Typically, the jungler is really just ignored, and you never really get too much help from mid or top lane.
And it is a very important skill to learn. Not a lot of people do it, as you said, but having that awareness is going to help you win so many games. So I'm just taking another peek down bot lane here. Leona's starting to position slightly more aggressively, but still not nearly as much as you might expect. She's kind of just sort of dancing around saying, I'm ready to ward, I'll disengage if they try and fight you. But she's not zoning, she's not forcing engages, she's not doing much.
I'd also like to bring more attention to her skill order. Like you can see, Leona has unfortunately decided to level her Q and her Zenith Blade before her W, and that's really hurting her ability to dive and tank for Ashe and her team, basically, because she's just unable to get those resistances at crucial moments of the dives.
You always want to max W first, and then after that you can go for either E if you're looking for more engages, or Q if you need more sustained trades. Almost every chance, though, you're going to be maxing E second. We see Vel'Koz trying to roam up towards top lane. Ryze does try and collapse down a little bit, but Shyvana just has too much move speed. They're not going to be able to catch her out. I'm not sure what that Asher was for.
Now, even though Shyvana has 4 deaths already, she did build the Spirit Visage, and at this point in time, she essentially made herself very tanky against more than half of the enemy team. That's really gonna... Unless Vel'Koz starts building that penetration immediately, that's gonna impede his ability to really shove that Shyvana out of top lane.
You see Nidalee and Volibear trying to collapse, but instead of trying to go in behind and force an engage, they just kind of try and hold the turret. And at this point, Shyvana is pretty low.
Like Vel'Koz will be caught out. Also, Ryze getting jumped on by Shyvana, and Vel'Koz will be going down to Nidalee's spear.
The flash was forced from Ryze as well. At this point, he should really just leave his tower.
There's no reason for him to stay here. He's just wasting time.
And there would have been another good reason to pick up Teleport as Ryze instead of Ignite. He could have gone back quickly and teleported back to his tower.
Yeah, Vel'Koz seems to be going for Rod of Ages and then Void Staff. And while I like the Void Staff, I still want to see that
Getting
Morello.
advantage and an ult.
Purple team
Onto
really
Nidalee and
overstaying their
Shiv.
welcome top lane, which is gonna cost them in 2 deaths and probably a turret from Volibear.
I think they just weren't expecting that damage from Amumu. I'm actually surprised myself.
Yeah, Amumu with Sunfire Cape and having his ult up. He has his level 2 ult already because he was level 11. So his damage is very respectable if he lands a full combo.
Ashe managed to finish her Infinity Edge bot lane, so now she's really turning herself into a feared AD carry that is able to take 2 kills right off the bat. I'm sorry, Ryze is one who took a double kill top lane, and she managed to get 1 kill off Janna.
She was very close to finishing off the oh my god, Vayne. I'm drawing a blank here. She was very, very close to it, not quite able to connect with the last shot. She did waste her flash in the process, but she's going to get a turret for it, so it's all totally worth it at the end of the day.
It seems like Leona, never mind, she reconnected.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
Given all the issues with Twitch servers today, I would not be surprised if they're just like random DDoS attacks.
Right now we see blue team with a huge gold advantage, not only from their kills, but who's the one to take the last dragon? Purple team?
I believe so. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I don't think blue team has taken dragon. But dragon should be coming up shortly. And if purple team can make a play for dragon, it should kind of be able to bring them kind of back into the game. Purple team also needs towers very badly, losing pretty much all of their first towers here in every lane, while blue team has maintained all of their own.
Now we can see Volibear and Shyvana collapsing onto Vel'Koz, and I think they're going to try to make something engage, but at the same time, Amumu is dancing around the mid lane to ensure that his Vel'Koz manages to survive out of any engagement.
The Ashe arrow
Ashe
connecting
ult.
with Janna.
Going down onto Janna, but the Vayne ult will kind of scare her away a bit. But Leona will be
Zenith
continuing to
Blade.
go in.
Extraordinarily good ultimate from Leona. I would have not expected that to connect.
And the Amumu ult just continuing to do work.
Now Ashe is extraordinarily ahead of Vayne, which is exactly where she needs to be. So I feel like this bot lane absolutely won their game right there.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
Yeah, with Ashe being this far ahead, all of the concerns about how much use she's going to have kind of is no longer important. Because the enemy team has so few gap closers, all they really have is a Shyvana ult. There's no one who can really just hard engage onto her at this point, and there's enough PL, her team's far enough ahead that I would not expect her to have any issues from this stage onwards. Some nice counter jungling coming out from blue team, just taking away the wraiths. I have the same complaint in that they're not leaving any up to try and deny resources, but they're still getting some resources for themselves, so it's all good.
Leona, unfortunately, giving a kill over to Vayne for overextending.
It's also very demoralizing as a jungle to come to your camp and see nothing there but, like, you know, one tiny little wraith or one tiny little golem.
Now, Amumu has been putting an extraordinary amount of pressure onto the Volibear, and as you can see, right now he's like more than 30 CS ahead of Volibear, which is a huge difference considering the amount of kills and assists he has as well.
So I don't believe Ashe will have any issues, but that being said, trying to do any significant trades or fights when you're in a 1v2 setup is incredibly risky, and she was able to disengage it and just sort of go back to farming, but that is something to keep in the back of your mind if you are bot lane. If you're ever alone and you're versus a lane opponent who are still there, then you just really do not want that trade.
Especially Vayne.
For sure. And while Janna doesn't have the best CC in the game, the control that she can have over you, if she lines up her tornadoes properly, if she's landing the W onto you, and she also is running exhaust, she can definitely lock you down long enough for Ashe to kill you. Or sorry, Vayne to kill you.
Just a little
Looks like-
shout here. Sorry, I just noticed the new particles for the heal return on the jungle camps, and I just love it.
The new particles
Yeah,
are
it's really
beautiful.
pretty.
I like the new teleport ones the best.
Slain the dragon.
Blue team picking up the dragon. Now this will put purple team really, really behind. The only way for purple team to really stop this dragon or even take it would have been a full 5 coming in. But we see Shyvana still top lane. And a kill possibly going down on Janna? Yes.
Shyvana needs to keep doing exactly what she's doing right now because her team is so far behind that split pushing is really going to be their only viable strategy to get themselves back into this game at this point.
Oh yeah, there's no way Shyvana can even team fight blue team.
We see the ping on the Shyvana right now, so blue team is going to try to instigate something to stop her advance. I believe Amumu is going to try to intercept her, but at this point, like, a lot of the damage has already been done. She's probably going to keep pushing and going to try to separate the blue team to mitigate some of their team fight presence.
This is just another time that I kind of wish Ryze was running teleport. Because he could have maybe been able to get in behind that, maybe set up something for his team.
It's very true. Mind you, Ryze has been doing very well in securing objectives and just, you know, doing what he can for his team. But you're completely right that with that summoner spell, I believe his presence would have been a lot more daunting and a lot more useful for his team.
Vel'Koz getting caught out here by the mid support and AD carry, and it looks like Nidalee will take the kill here.
That was a bit of a panic flash from him. There was no chance of it actually saving him, so if I were him, save the cooldown. It's pretty damn important.
Yeah.
Also, his team was so far behind him. I'm not quite sure why he was still there.
We see Vel'Koz actually finishing the Rabadon's death cap here. I'm gonna try to look at Vel'Koz's ratios right now, but I know he's kind of notorious for having awful ratios.
They're not as bad as people make them out to be, but so much of it boils down to them having to be hit by both portions of the tear. That's a lot of damage going in here. Amumu is going to be taken down, I feel, but in the meantime, actually, he might even escape. No, never mind. I was half expecting a Leona to jump in there and save him.
I cannot believe that Ryze did not finish off that Shyvana.
Yeah, that seems a little odd. He's been playing so aggressively, but now he's just not chasing.
Picked up by Ashe. Leona is really trying to get that kill onto the Volibear.
She's just really thirsty.
Am I seeing things, or does she have 6 flames around her?
I'm assuming it's bugged, but I actually did have a comment about her landing phase. She wasn't using her Tarragon's charges. She'd sit there with two charges or 3 charges or whatever the max was that she had for the item she was using at the moment, and she wouldn't proc them. I get that you want to use them on siege minions, but if you have 2 charges up, they're not recharging at all, so you just use 1.
Vayne instantly blew up with Vel'Koz's power right there.
Also, I don't know if I agree with the home guard boots on Ryze right now. Doesn't really seem like blue team even needs a home guard, as most of their turrets are up. And also, I really like, I think it's called Boots of Alacrity onto Ryze, just because it gives him the extra movement speed he needs when he's casting all of his spells.
And they're actually buffing them next patch, which will be interesting.
Excited.
They're buffing a lot of the enchantments, and I'm really excited about that because I've tried to make them work so many times. I'm just like, ugh, I don't want just boring home guards again. And I just always feel so underwhelming if I don't just build home guards.
Yeah, home guards is really the only viable boots right now. Talisman going on to their team, and it looks like Vayne will be able to catch out this Vel'Koz. Amumu and Ryze still kind of hanging around here, looking like they want to pick off Nidalee, and they...
That is a lot of damage. He does have an Abyssal Scepter and Sunfire Cape at this point.
AP Amumu is a terror.
Anytime I'm stuck as jungle and I'm smurfing or I'm playing with viewers or whatever, I'm just like, screw it. I'm just going to play Deathcap Amumu. Screw it. I don't even want to have to try.
As someone who plays Lucian a lot, you're the worst kind of person.
Yeah, you just show up, boom, ult, everyone dies. I was actually playing again the other day, and I was so low, and I was just like, screw it, I'm going to flash back into their team and ult. And I just happened to have my team do enough damage at that exact moment that I flash ulted and got a triple kill, and I was like, oh, I guess no one's going to kill me now.
I really like to point out that I feel that blue team is making this game a bit longer than it really needs to be at this point, because they have a 15,000 gold advantage over the purple team right now. They really should just get that Baron. I mean, Baron is actually even unnecessary. I don't know why Shyvana is diving into this while her entire team
There's
is
no
not
way
even
for
near.
her to be taking this either. And she dove in way too early.
Yeah, she didn't have a
Anyways.
ward on it. She was just speculating that it was low. But yeah, I completely agree with you, Guy. The blue team, they have so much hard engage on their team. They can force any fight they want, and they can win pretty much any fight that shows up because they're 15,000 gold ahead.
Yeah,
So they
even
need to
now,
force
Ashe-
their engages.
Ashe is coming back. I understand that she doesn't really have a lot of lifesteal right now, and that she probably should get some, actually. But
Yeah, she's a really balls to the wall build. I think we've commented on his build before, and yet he always does well with Ashe. And it's just one of those things where it's like you know the champion really well, but you're not necessarily playing the most efficient way that you could.
I feel
I
that
don't think
he
Ashe.
did.
I'm sorry, I disagree. I don't think Ashe really needs any attack speed. I mean, attack speed, lifesteal, especially with her team. Just building full damage and. I mean, lifesteal.
But would you
be
really
ideal
rush a
against-
Phantom Dancer and a Static Shiv before a Last Whisper or any form of defensive or lifesteal?
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. But I don't think Ashe necessarily needs too much lifesteal.
Now, Vel'Koz and Leona sort of preemptively decided to attack the purple team while Ashe, Amumu, and Ryze were not even near them. I'm not sure why that happened. Honestly, they just got the Baron. The only thing they really needed to do was group as a 5-man team and rush the Nexus.
And also, Ashe and Ryze are just incredibly alone right now. But they'll be getting away.
Yeah, Amumu really doesn't need to farm the jungle at this point. He is exactly where he needs to be in terms of tankiness and power. He needs to start engaging those fights for his team to take the game.
Yeah, they're wasting Baron. The point of taking Baron is to engage onto the enemy team and, like, group.
Hmm. That or Siege because of the regen.
Baron should only be used as a stalling method when your team is very behind, which is not the case in this scenario.
I'm referring to sieging the enemy team. If they didn't have the amount of hard engage they have on their team, they could use it, like let's say purple team had it, they could use it with like Nidalee Spears to sort of siege enemy teams and constantly poke away at the tower rather than forcing a hard engage just because they don't have a way to force it. But honestly, that's more a problem with team comp rather than play style.
Ashe staying bot lane after she killed the Vayne 1v1, and not the best idea. As we see now, she'll probably be going down to either Shyvana or Nidalee, but she's continuing to kite them. Still a bad idea. She really should have just been walking away, but she will be getting the Nidalee kill.
Still manages to get the Nidalee kill.
No idea.
The amount of crits she's getting is kind of hilarious.
Well, she has Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer, and Static Shiv. Like, this is a... Oh my gosh, just let me calculate this for a second.
Someone was asking in chat, yes, we're doing viewer games after this. I think this
Vel'Koz
is-
pushing mid on his own, and Vayne will be ulting onto him, but the Death Ray kills her first.
That was a shocking amount of damage from Vel'Koz. I guess this is what happens when you rush just flat damage and you hit a no-resist target.
Okay, so Ashe has at least a 75% crit chance with those 3 items, regardless of any runes she might have had this game as well.
Correct me if I'm wrong, isn't crit chance capped?
Have you seen Yasuo?
Yes, but that's because he gets doubles. I believe Yasuo and Tryndamere were the only champions who could go over a certain percentage, and I don't remember what that percentage is. I know it's really high, but I think there is technically a hard cap on it.
See, I played so much Yasuo that I forget if there's even a cap.
Yeah, well, you're essentially a war criminal for playing Yasuo.
I agree.
I don't disagree.
Ryze is able to get onto Vayne here.
I love how Ryze is just, like, ignored.
He's pretty tanky at this point. Like, A late game Ryze is a terror. I'm not sure. No one seems to want to end the game, so Ryze is just sort of there saying, "Hey, can we actually end the game?" And his team just sort of ditches him.
I find it interesting that at this point Vel'Koz is still foregoing any amount of penetration. He's actually going to try to build Zanya's.
Yeah, I don't agree with it, but he's been doing an okay job this game. He's been landing some good combos. I just feel he could be more effective.
That he started off rather well, and that the Rod of Ages wasn't a bad pick after all, considering the fact that he could survive Nidalee's onslaught of pokes with the extra health.
So much damage from Ashe. It's just auto attacks. Killing Nidalee and possibly killing their tank. Yeah, killing their tank.
Yeah, they just need to end at this point. Just hit the Nexus and be done with it.
I don't know why Ashe is just pushing on her own. They really should just be forcing their way mid to take the open Nexus.
Oh my god, that damage.
Ashe is so far ahead, I don't understand why her team just doesn't engage for her at this point.
Oh, looks like
Maybe.
Leona's going to be doing that. No, misses the Zenith Blade, but they will be getting the tower instead. And this should be the end of the game.
Oh, no question about it. They cannot stop
Hopefully.
this.
The minions will do it themselves. But it looks like they will be going for one last team fight before the game ends, and GG.
Okay, so good job to both teams there. We're just going to go over some of the general item picks, final comments on gameplay, and then we're going to be jumping into some viewer games for anyone who wants to play with us. If you do want to play in those games, make sure you're in the Pro for Never chat room. I will mention when we're going to start them, and that's when we'll start inviting people from. So don't start spamming me yet, please. Okay, do you guys want to take it off with item builds?
Alright,
I'm just
yeah.
waiting for the stats to populate right now.
Okay, well, let me go off of Vel'Koz first then. I'm not too sure if I agreed with the Rod of Ages or the Zonias either. I mean, it really just seemed like he was building AP for another AP carry. Like, maybe his build would have been good on a Nivea. But I don't see that working on Vel'Koz. And like you guys said, he could have built so much more Magic Pen, and he could have built items that actually really reduced their healing by so much, but he didn't. So, yeah, that was a little strange.
Yes, I feel that with the Rod of Ages build, I'm not sure what the thought process was behind getting it. I'm going to assume it was to get some defense against Nidalee's poke. But I really feel that Void Staff or even Liandry's Torment would have been a much stronger pick for Vel'Koz, especially after the Rabadon's Death Cap.
I love the Amumu build. And the Rise build seems to be fine. Everyone's build seems to be pretty conventional. Ashe's build, like you guys said, don't think she should have built a Static Shiv and a Phantom Dancer at the same time. Typically, you only really see AD carries build one or the other. A Last Whisper earlier would have been better. Possibly even a Bloodthirster would have been fine on Ashe since she was so ahead. She was so ahead of the enemy team.
I want to point out Rise was commenting in chat being like, you guys said I'd have no kill potential, blah, blah, blah. And that's all well and good. We're not denying that you played quite well. You made a lot of kill potential for yourself. That being said, I still am not convinced that Ignite really had that much effect on the game. Your kills were based on you positioning properly, or the enemy team mispositioning, or a gank. And that's not anything against you as a person or your playstyle or anything like that. I just feel that you would have had a more global impact on the game and been able to come back from being far behind and just had more options if you're running something like Teleport. Again, nothing wrong with Ignite. It's just a really long cooldown for what it does, given sort of your relative power curve.
And the only time you really see Ignite on a top lane is someone who is incredibly aggressive, like Pantheon or Shyvana. someone who can really kill the enemy top lane. You know, Ryze is pretty weak early game, and while you were able to kill that Shyvana with Ignite for first blood, I mean, I think it was really a misplay on her part.
Before he used the Ignite to secure First Blood, I saw 3 different opportunities for him to secure the kill without using any summoner spells.
Yeah, I agree.
And that was just boiling down to positioning, auto attack resets, and using his Q properly. And again, that's not saying that he misplayed so poorly. He got First Blood, he did a good job, but it wasn't because of Ignite that set it up. That's
yeah,
my opinion.
it could have been played better.